Hello and welcome back to Lorcana Villain. My name is Baker, and what I have for you today is a re-upload of the Artists Mainstage that took place on the Lorcana official Discord channel. I had the honour of being invited along with world famous the Illumateers to join the show. This was hosted by the Global and Engagement Community Manager, Richelle, very famous in the Lorcana world now, and three incredible artists. There were Mike, who is the art director and co-set lead on the Reign of Jafar, Mckay, who was the senior art director and the Palace Heist lead, and Aubrey, who is a concept artist and the co-set lead on Reign of Jafar. And this was just an hour of getting a couple of card reveals and having a bunch of art shown to the community, and it was incredible, and it was so awesome to be there. I did record it, and I've been given permission to re-upload it, but this is a warning. I missed the first 5 minutes. There was like an introduction period. My fault completely. I was too mesmerized by what we were about to do, but it's only the first 5 minutes, and there's still a good hour of really amazing content. So please enjoy.
There was an interesting game mechanic point of development here. We needed a distinction between, if you can see in the middle section there, the sand is a lot more welcoming. It's kind of glowy and ethereal, and it floats. And then as Jafar kind of settles into his full form, it becomes oppressive. And from like a philosophy design standpoint, that was hopefully to show kind of like, the rise of any dictator is, at first it doesn't seem so bad. At first it might seem a little bit welcoming. And then when it's fully realized, all of that seemed light and anything that seemed optimistic about it turns heavy and dark and starts to drown in the sand, was kind of part of the philosophy too.
And that applies to his illusions too, right? Because his illusions they start more illusion-like and less threatening. They look really scary, but they can be spelled very easily, and they become more of a real threat as time goes on. And so we wanted to visually show that as well.
Yeah, it was definitely something that we leaned pretty hard into too throughout the entire set. That sand magic and how both the durable and non-durable illusions are created, and trying to get those visuals really on par.
Mhm.
Fascinating. It's really cool seeing some of these concept pieces and how the art developed, how the game came about. Because a lot of times, we wouldn't see some of this. So getting it in the public eye is fascinating. One of the things I really like about this piece too, talking about the progression of the character, the storytelling, etc. You also see this really fun interplay between the crown and the crown's power and Jafar, whether or not that's him as it progresses from left to right, like making full use of the crown's power, or whether there's some interplay between the crown and Jafar in terms of it corrupting him or influencing him in some way, or maybe it's just that power corrupts. But that is clearly evident in the story here as well, and I don't know, it's really cool.
That's one of the things you can also notice too with the Hexwell crown is that we did change the magic coloring, so it's actually specific for Jafar as opposed to how we previously saw it with Ursula.
Yeah, it was reforged specifically by Jafar, so it's his version.
That's one of my favorite details. The crown and how it's progressed between who's wearing it from Ursula to Jafar. Liam, please continue, because I've got so much to say, and once I start talking I will waffle, so go to the end of your points, please.
Oh, I know.
I'll wait till last. I'll go last.
Window of opportunity.
I'll go last.
One of the fun, tricky parts about that crown, too, was keeping it consistent visually across the entire set, because we had some visuals for it and how we want it to look, but some of those details don't always translate the way that we'd like to, so we'd have to constantly be double-checking each of the cards, going like, oh, is this on model? No, it's not working quite properly. We need to adjust this, this, and this. So it's always the little details.
I do have one more question, but I'm going to leave it till later, because you said something, Mike, during your comments that I found interesting, a little detail, but I'll interrogate that later. But no, the only other thing I noticed in this, which is really cool, and you see in the artwork too, is how with the crown, the crown, as we know, I think we know, and correct me if I'm wrong, but it augments a Glimmer's power. So it doesn't necessarily give them something new, but it takes a power they already have and it just enhances it. And you can see Jafar has multiple tricks that we know about. One's illusions, but one's also the hypnotization. And you can see both of those playing out with the staff and the sand at the same time. So yeah, it's just fascinating. Baker, you take over here, because I know we are limited on time, and You're going to die if you don't get to ask questions on this part.
Oh, 100%. Yeah, so first of all, the staff in particular, I have to draw attention to. You mentioned about how to, bringing in representation of both amethyst and steel. And I think you can tell, at a moment's glance, when you look at the staff, it absolutely has that steel feel to it, and obviously I think is just such an iconic item in Lorcana in general. Will we get a Jafar snake staff item one day? Who knows? But I love that for a start. Something else I think that is really interesting that you mentioned is to do with the development, and specifically the glimmers. How you mentioned that at first, they're not quite so threatening. They can easily be disarmed, banished via in the mechanics of the game. We call it by actions. But I'm going to dive on that point you made, because we have seen a couple of product images. Go on.
This was my question. The term durable and non-durable glimmers was used, and I just want to chime in with that. So you go ahead with your point.
Yeah, like maybe they'll overlap. From what we've seen of the Illumineers quest so far, there was a product image for the announcements yesterday, and then a separate image that showed us another 3 of the cards. And something that I jumped on straight away is, while they are illusions, they don't have the vanish keyword. Now, in my speculation video, I said, hey, maybe it's just in the core rules that all of them are banished when they're targeted by actions, and they just wanted to save space on the text. So perhaps that's the case, and you may or may not want to confirm or deny, and that's fine. This can purely be speculation. But the point you make about how they become more durable says to me that by the time we get to specifically the Palace Heist section of the Reign of Jafar chapter, which typically has been the epilogue, like Deep Trouble was the epilogue of the Ursa's Return set, that says to me that these illusions have become fully powered and they will not be able to be banished just by targeting them with actions, and that this mechanic played a lot into the art design and the story as a whole.
So one thing real quick, Baker definitely getting ahead of things a little bit. I think it's a good segue to go into Illumineers Quest, and I think we're gonna couch that topic a little bit.
Okay. Sorry.
But we will come back to it, I promise.
That's fine.
Oh, look at this.
Look at it.
Can I talk about this one?
You should.
Oh.
So I art directed this one since I was the set lead on the heist specifically. This one underwent so many different things, but we actually got Max Lickney on board, and I've been a huge fan of his art for a really long time. And I basically said, hey, here's the story. I just want you to do something epic. And we literally went through almost no thumbnails. It was just, this came together so quickly and beautifully. And the funny part of it is, originally the box was going to be landscape, and this was going to be the box art, was the intent originally. But then as product development kept going and the box shifted to be portrait oriented, this no longer fit. And so we were like, what can we do with this? So it's actually the back of the game board. And because otherwise we were like, it could be promotional or something like that. But overall, we didn't have a place for this to live as solidly. So we fought hard to get it on the back of the game board. So you flip it over and it's just this big, beautiful piece of art, which is arguably, I think, better than the box art, right? Like it gets bigger, which is really fun.
Yeah, the box art that you actually see is also in landscape format, so you're missing several inches from either side. It could be a playmat the way that it was originally done, because it was supposed to be ideally the top flap for your booster box was what my intent was for it.
I think we're all just a bit stunned. I think we're all just a bit stunned, and this chat absolutely represents that. And there's one thing I want to say now, just to get it out of the way. because chat keep referring to it. So I do want to say it, and I know that Richelle won't be able to comment on it, and that's fine. But I would like to reinforce the community's desire for an art book of all of this incredible art that you guys have worked on over the years. I'm sorry, Richelle, please don't be mad at me. I'm sure you can't comment, but I just...
I'm not mad at you.
I have to say
we
it.
definitely know that that's something the community wants.
I just,
it's that and
sorry.
It's the concept pieces too. Like, it's great to actually get to see this, but like the concept work behind it is so enriching. But yeah.
Absolutely.
That'd be sweet. I love a good art book.
I'm done.
So I think like this does a really great job of like setting the scene and the story of Palace Heist. Like it kind of all is encapsulated there. And even, people in the chat pointed out, it looks like Basil is on the side of the heroes in this art.
Justice for Basil.
Yes, and this is one of the this is one of the places where we were able to show that like Basil does get his moment of redemption, that he can work together with the heroes despite his his being taken over by Jafar's power.
Love that.
His card's pretty fun too.
That's great.
And speaking, there's so much in here. Basil getting his redemption there. Speaking of redemption, my boy Martin over there, like the villain, I feel like villainized for some sets for unleashing Ursula. Here he is being the hero and rescuing Shanzay. So a little throwback there, and I love that. It's funny, like Lauren Barger has this quote that I love. She probably got it from somewhere, but Family Card Arts, but she says, in illustration, a single image bears the weight of narrative. And I love that. And this image is bearing a ton of narrative weight because it tells there's several stories that this is telling all at the same time. One thing I do want to ask about, though, which is interesting, is so that in the background you do have this kind of portal. I assume this is like the palace, part of the palace heist. This is either the exterior. I'm assuming that Arcasia's Island didn't have that particular architecture before Jafar took over, because it seems very Jafar-esque, indicating that he's in his reign, he's kind of reshaped and reformed the island around him. Is that kind of the case?
Not a portal.
A door.
Not a door either.
I was going to say.
Go ahead, Mckay.
Well, there's a lot of concept work that went into this, and Aubrey, if you want to cut me off at any point, just raise your hand and I'll stop talking. But the answer is yes, that he reshapes Arcasia's Island inside and out. And we see that, and we'll see that in a couple reveals here today, I believe. One thing that I did want to point out about the image, about the previous image, we don't have to go back, but we had a lot of discussion about Jafar and the crown when it's on him, like when he wears it and when he doesn't wear it. And that was that came from a lot of gameplay mechanics. I won't say anything more than that, but we needed kind of like a reason for him to have it on or him to have it off. And I think a lot of that was he learned from Ursula that maybe having the crown on constantly is not great. And so he does have a place where he holds it. And that's what we're seeing in the background there, is a kind of like an hourglass container where the crown goes for safekeeping. We see Jafar use hourglasses several times when he captures Jasmine and when he's kind of doing his scrying. And the crown, that's kind of the crown's holding space where he keeps it safe when he doesn't have it on and when he's not using it.
Love that.
Yeah, and on the point of the architecture changing, specific Jafar is very much a master of illusion and sand illusion and changing things around him. So when he takes over, he's not gonna... Arcasia has a very distinctive style, right? It feels like her. We have a very distinctive color palette and shapes that we use for her island. But that's not what Jafar would want. So there is a lot of fun storytelling that I'm excited for everyone to see in the set that talks about that specific point.
And it's
already... that piece that John did.
It's already implied through the art of the Enchanted, right? Where it's like slowly shaping the island behind him and you can see it taking shape. So, love that.
Yeah. I continue on for more of Jafar shaping the island. And I know that Mike has been wanting to talk about this one a lot, if I'm remembering correctly.
Well, this was one where Mckay and I, when we were going through the top lining process, it was kind of a no-brainer homage to a certain film that we love, where you have to choose wisely. And
Mhm.
this is Jafar's Crown Chamber, and within it, there are all a bunch of illusions. And if you look at it, the way that Mckay art directed it, you can see that some of those crowns are dissolving into sand in the background, so you know that they're not actually the real one.
Yeah.
There's a lot of fun little details inside of the piece. And this one actually went through, what was it, Mckay, like 3 or 4 iterations?
Yeah, several iterations. And I think I actually ended up doing Stitch in there for
Yeah.
timing's sake. We were running short on time, and I was like, I'm just gonna, draw Stitch in there really quick. But a lot of beautiful development work went into this, and it took a while, even though it was one of, like you said, one of the earlier ones that we knew had to be in the set for that the personal homage desire. It still took quite a while to get right. And I guess that's something that we can learn from everything is when you have something that you really want and you really care about, it's harder to get just right.
Which is the rule that you're not supposed to have as an artist too. Never
Right.
let something get close to your chest, because when you do, it only sets you up for disappointment. So, but in the long run, everything turned out super awesome. Just took a little bit of finessing to get there, and there's a lot of little details that we snuck in throughout the entirety of the IQ, and that was a big thing that we tried to do narratively when writing our initial descriptions. Is like, okay, cool. So in this one scene that we have in main set, how can we carry this scene forward into the future, or like put little Easter eggs in the background and have stuff where you can see like things going parallel in the story at the same time. And like what you were saying earlier, Liam, with Lauren's quote, I believe that every illustration should tell a story, right? You're not just having an illustration for the sake of like, here's Stitch, right? It's not just here's Stitch. It's like, what is Stitch's motivation? What is he doing inside of the scene? Why is he doing the things that are inside of the scene? And what's next, right? So you need to build a whole story in one piece, which is the tricky part. It's not like a comic book where you have a ton of different panels that you can kind of like lay everything out narratively. You've got one shot, get it right, and then maybe you have another couple of cards that you can tie together and then create that almost like single panel comic book format of like, first this happens, then this happens, then that happens.
That's always been one of my favorite things. If we go back to Deep Trouble, I think it was set 2 or 3 where you got like Diver Mini, and then you got the Donald Duck as well, and they were like opposite ends of the same picture. And again, a lot of that are, as you say, as you allude to, setting the seeds for what would be Deep Trouble. Minnie being hypnotized by Ursula and becoming entangled, and there was the art with Hans and Anna and all these clues. So I'm so excited to see in more ways that this has been incorporated for this particular set. It's really exciting.
So one of those cards is coming up in a second here too.
Oh.
So I think one of the things that you guys were talking about was like the iterative process of the artwork. And so this was one that you guys had shared that went through multiple stages.
Oh yeah.
This one took a long time to get right. Not a fault of the artists or anyone involved, but I think we learned a lot along the way about what this piece would. And granted, it may not be like our best piece at the end of the day, but several things coalesced with this one that I thought was really important to kind of touch on. One is kind of like the overall theme. The heist gets a little bit darker and a little bit desaturated. You can see the colors aren't quite popping quite as much, and there's a little bit more. It was hard to strike that balance between, we don't want to show Disney characters like actually in danger. Originally, this had a lot of like people kind of running away from the screen, and we were like, we really want to get kind of a little bit of that comedic sense. So Abu seemed like a really natural call, and then just like the overall grit of the piece as well that came to life in this one was really was something that we really latched onto as kind of like a visual motif throughout the throughout the palace heist, that we could show just the distaste of Jafar's new realm.
Love that. Beautiful.
Yeah, it is interesting. In some of the pieces with the sand, it has a really like a light, a flowy kind of texture to it, kind of inviting, like warm beach sand. This sand is giving off like rough and coarse and getting everywhere and just being just awful to be in. Yeah, so it's interesting the different dynamics here. This is a very unwelcoming sand place to be.
You know, sand, between the sand and Abu in this piece, they were the two trickiest things to get down. Like, trying to actually capture a tidal wave of sand and have it read like sand is a lot harder than you would think as an artist. It was, we went back and forth a bunch of times, several paint overs. We were like, oh, this isn't working quite right. It was almost getting to the point that I was thinking about getting a physics engine so we could just take some screen caps and, like, work over that.
No,
So going back before, you were mentioning that, you know, with that idea of the storytelling through the artwork, that you can see things that are like stories going back and forth between the set and the Illumineer's quest. It's going to be a card reveal for some, but I imagine most people have seen this already.
I would hope so.
So yesterday, we snuck in, when Amazon pre-orders went live, we put a card in there for people that would find that on Amazon.
nice.
Pinocchio strings attached. So, yeah, if you guys would want to talk about the artwork for this card, for those of you who have not seen it, congratulations on seeing a legendary that you missed maybe yesterday. But yeah, if you guys could talk about this one.
Yes, it may have been inspired by a certain scene. So it is also in the chat. I got to do one of my fun nods there. I like sneaking stuff in because all of us as ADs, when we're not doing the illustrations, one of the fun parts is that we're coming up with the descriptions for the piece, right? So in the art brief, we get to decide, like, what's the overall action going to be? Like, what are the kinds of things that we can pull from, like, our developmental years that we really dig. And this was one where I was like, oh my God, I've got it. Here's what we're going to do. Since Pinocchio's going to be getting the key, he's rappelling down into the chamber by his strings, and he's going to get this key, which you'll also see in the background of a whole bunch of pieces too.
Yeah, that was just something that was really fun with the heroes, I think, in Jafar's set, is because they're all sneaking in. So it was like just the pure delight of heist tropes. We got to really enjoy that and have fun and play with all the heist things that you can do, trying to sneak into his palace.
It's genius. I love it. Like,
so the story gets continued here, right?
Yeah, it does.
Yeah.
Yep, but when you think about it too, when you get the card, that art is going to be so small, the Pinocchio is going to be smaller than like the width of your pinky nail. And so you have to pay attention because in the background, there's a ton of stuff like that that's like snuck in there where we would have to zoom in and go, okay, is this too far? Can we actually communicate that this is Pinocchio with these strokes? Or even, we do it with Alice and then Stitch too. So those three characters kind of have an arc that runs through main set and the IQ that you'll see. And designing giant mechanical scorpions is a lot of fun too. So.
They're so cool.
This is crazy.
They are so cool. Yeah, I love the Pinocchio inclusion. And like, I'm so glad you say outright for the last art, the Pinocchio one, that you just say outright, yeah, this was heavily inspired by a famous scene that you can probably guess. Because that's great to hear, like, you know, drawing off of your own life experiences and things you're fans of. I think that's just great to hear outright, and it is genius. I saw a bit of the Pinocchio because it was half revealed in the Illumineers quest marketing image. So I'd seen half of it, but to see it all there, like, and now when you lay it out, of course Pinocchio is using his strings to dangle down for the, like, when you see it, it makes all the sense in the world. But yeah, this is beautiful.
There's a moment where they're like, all the heroes are like, we need a hero to lower in there. Who?
Of course it's Pinocchio.
Yeah.
Of course.
What?
Yeah, and this art is beautiful.
Speaking of, that's something that like the art team has like an ongoing like running joke with ropes, right?
Rope. Yes, that was a
Yes.
big one.
Ropes.
So we have a lot of,
Characters on
there's like
ropes.
a lot more ropes in this in Reign of Jafar, right?
You can't have a heist without ropes.
It was more the sneaking camels in for scale. So
It's a personal hobby of mine to go through and look at card art and be like, are they hanging from a rope? Do they have a rope in their hand?
more rope. Well, I mean, that's what happens when you have a lot of stuff with ships in it, right? Is there's always rope.
Azure sees a big one. It's great.
So you say that this camel is
I
just...
did want to know, like...
Oh, sorry.
Go on.
There you go.
Who's going?
Baker first, did we
I
do
know. I hate interrupting. I keep talking. I feel like I'm talking way too much. All I was going to say was this camel that you mentioned, which is apparently just for scale. I'm not buying it, all right? That camel knows things. This camel is the ultimate big bad of Lorcana, and I don't believe a word you say otherwise, okay?
100% the same camel. Yeah, in each.
He's the
wandering around
genius.
like the
He knows
Watchers.
things.
Yeah, his name is Carl.
So Baker earlier had brought up the durable and non-durable illusions, right? And so this, I believe, falls under durable.
Looks
So
pretty
that's
durable.
actually this isn't actually an illusion.
Yeah.
There is a classification, if you will, that doesn't fall into one of the illusions. Jafar, while he's very adept at illusions, and that is a part of what he does, he's not completely ignorant to their weaknesses. So he does construct, if you will, some other things to help him out, and that underwent a whole other like development pass of how do we unify the visual language across these other types of glimmers.
Yep. Up to and including it going back to the Jafar evolution, and this is something Mckay brought up earlier in a work chat, was that there was a point when we had Jafar on a giant mechanical cobra, and it was super cool. So, but for the sake of illustration purposes, you don't really get the scale of Jafar when he's this big on a big mechanical cobra. If there was live action or something, that could look super cool. But yeah.
Aubrey, was that your piece? I believe that was your sketch, wasn't it?
There's some early stuff I worked on.
Yeah,
it was rad.
It definitely contributed to the evolution of this type of glimmer. That I'll be honest, are there 4 of them, Mike? 3 or 4? I can't remember. I think some got cut, but they're definitely the ones that you are not going to be happy when they hit the board in the Palace Heist.
Yeah, it's gonna be a bad day.
Interesting. So it sounds like Jafar found the forge, reforged the crown, and then started to use the forge for other shenanigans. It is interesting you called it a glimmer, because to this point, I think all the glimmers we've seen have been summoned using ink. This would indicate that you can forge them and create them in another way, which is fascinating.
I love it.
Well, it's all Jafar magic.
Jafar magic.
Yeah.
And long may he reign. Can we just have Reign of Jafar set?
Jafar's kind of like finding his own. Jafar's like finding his own way to like keep up with the Illumineers, right? Or really to overpower the Illumineers.
Yep.
And that includes illusions, which I think the Aladdin was shown, but I think this is the first time people are seeing Jasmine.
Yeah,
yes,
we've not seen this Jasmine. Wow.
This duo was another pretty early on one that we needed to see, I think. So when we talk about like the weight of these illusions getting more and more like kind of solid and more lifelike, instead of that kind of like glowing trail of sand, bringing them here, you can see both in the lighting as well as kind of their posture. I get the chills looking at these as a pair because it feels so corrupt. It just feels like they're drawing you into this this trap that that you're not going to be able to get out of. And so we wanted that kind of weight of both personality as well as kind of like their bodies becoming a lot more solid, a lot more permanent, and a lot more impactful once we hit the Palace Heist.
It's also a good point to talk about it feeling a little bit more trappy, and that was a huge thing. There's a big difference between Arcasia and her palace versus Jafar, is that Arcasia's palace is filled with training, like obstacle course stuff. Jafar repurposes those and makes them into like not so fun obstacle course, like Wipeout, except it's going to hurt you. So yeah, good times. The spikes kind of are a giveaway in the Aladdin card too.
He's not quite as good at the deception.
Well, like the Jasmine as
like,
well.
No, it's safe.
I think the Jasmine as well, kind of like, you can tell me if intentionally or not, but it to me, it has the vibe of the callback to the moment in the film when Jafar asks her to be his queen, and she's like, no, but then she sees Aladdin trying to sneak in, so she puts on the act for a minute, and she's there twiddling his hair and all this sort of stuff, and like she's trying to seduce him. Let's just say it outright, like to trick him. And like this, I think this artwork has that energy about it of like it's the evil version of Jasmine if she was to be like Jafar's stooge, whatever you want to call it. But evil Aladdin and Jasmine is our vibe. I love it.
Yeah, one of the
Incredible.
really subtle details that we included in the durable illusions that I think is very fun, and you can see it really well on Jasmine's, is even the parts that are full color, the highlights are kind of glittery. So it's like she's kind of made of sand even when she's like full color, and even her hair has like the glitter effect in it. And I think it's really fun to see that in the card art.
Yeah, love it.
It's fascinating.
It's also to think of where these like glimmers or where these illusions come from. When we put Jasmine on the throne, it was kind of like a moment of like, is this right? Like, would she just be chilling on the throne? And then it was like, no, in Jafar's mind, he wants her as like queen to rule alongside him. And so there does get to be this really kind of like twisted view of him creating a glimmer of something he can't have, but is kind of, sitting in and filling that place.
That's fascinating. The fulfillment of one of his deepest desires in a really corrupt way. That's fascinating. Wow. There's some translucence to the crown too. I don't know if anybody notices that. That's kind of cool.
Yep. On purpose.
It's not the real crown.
Can I ask who the artist was for these?
Oh,
I know
sweet.
Jasmine is John Lauren. No, not John Lauren. It's Ian McDonald.
Yep.
Yeah.
I would have to look up Aladdin.
Okay. I was curious. Yeah, not surprising. Ian works so many details into his pieces. His stuff is so nuanced. Doesn't surprise me.
That would be.
Looks like it's Malia.
Oh, okay.
Malia Ewart.
Beat me to it.
She did the Bell Mystic card.
Oh, another beautiful piece. Nice. Very
Yeah.
cool.
Malia's phenomenal. If you've met her in person, just a gem of a human being too.
I certainly hope so. And that's interesting you say that as well, because like, I don't know, the Bell Accomplished Mystic and this Jasmine have similar vibes in a way. And I've heard it said before that when it comes to distributing characters among the artists, then they absolutely like to take into account the styles and the characters and the things that artist loves and like does well and like can put their personal touch on, right?
Actually, it's the Aladdin that's Malia that did. So,
okay. Point
Jasmine
stats.
is
Point stats.
Ian McDonald, who did the wounded Beast,
Wounded
if you
Beast.
remember in set 4. Yeah.
Ian McDonald does a lot of Big Hero 6 stuff too, if I remember.
He did do a lot of Big Hero 6.
Nice.
He's doing some cool stuff for me right now that I can't talk about.
I mean, you could.
Nope.
Not.
Good.
I like my job.
So I'm gonna
Like
on
you having
that
your
note.
job.
I think we're gonna move on from Illuminator's Quest for now, and we're definitely gonna talk more about it over the next couple of weeks, and yeah, I will leave some more of this for later, but there's so much amazing artwork in Illuminator's Quest for you all to see and experience for yourself when you play through it. So we hope that that was like a little bit of a taste to get you excited about everything that you're gonna find in this story as it unfolds. But one of the things that I wanna move on to is card reveals. And so these card reveals are very focused on the artwork. And one of the things that, people have talked about in previous sets was when they see that artwork is connected. So that like when you put two cards together, that you can see the full art piece go. Uh, this was like to me stood out so much with Reign of Jafar that um, you can see artwork where that was very much taken into account of how to present that. So these are our first card reveals here.
First triptych. These were a lot of fun to do. We have some diptychs and triptychs inside of the set. Huey, Dewey, and Louie was kind of an obvious triptych. And then you get to see some of the traps inside of Jafar's palace in the background there that are magical fire-breathing snakes. And that's good times. And of course,
Did you notice the frame?
Laser
too?
snakes. It's laser snakes.
Laser snakes.
It's confirmed. It's on the Penelope card. She calls them laser snakes. It's canon. They're laser snakes.
Yes, it does.
So excited.
So fun. Not only is the art connect. I mean, the story is so funny and fun. You see them running, but then you've connected the flavor text as well and told the story through that.
Love that.
So it's really fun, like the artwork and the narrative team, carrying together to tell a really, really fun story with these three cards. I love it. And they're stylized too, very similar to the reboot versions, I think. So it's kind of interesting. They're drawing more on the more recent versions rather than the classic version, which is fun.
Yeah, no, it was a blast. Federico absolutely killed it with these cards. It's really tricky when you're laying out something like this to make it visually compelling and then capture each of those characters in a way where it's not diminishing through the background and you've got like one little tiny one, right, to get the perspective right. So it's just fun to be able to have like a 1, 2, 3 of each of those cards all in sequence. So when you line them up and you get the big piece, they're just making their way through this terrible trap room trying to get to the rest of the crew in order to help out with the heist later on.
I will just say it out loud because it's happening in the chat for those that don't like keep track of the chat. The frames are like this on the actual cards. So when you put them in your binder, the middle card does remove the side borders and the two ends do remove the interior borders. And so playing them as a trio is and they are a 2, 3, and 4 drop, which I'm like, I just want to see it happen. I know it probably won't, but I just want to see these 3 come out on the board and be set up like that.
That would be so
unlocked.
I love it. I love it so much.
I can't believe you did the borders like this.
Yep.
I mean, shout out to the creative team for every single set pushing the envelope and trying something new and fun and seeing how it sticks. That's cool.
So we have another one to share. Though I will say Huey is absolutely going in my Chernodog deck.
Nice.
Oh yeah. Gameplay. Yeah, gameplay.
Oh no! Don't know what happened here.
Oh,
1 sec. I will go back and fix it.
I fixed it.
You got it?
Yep, that was my bad.
Finally, Maleficent's Crockett. For anyone who doesn't know, these are not Maleficent. Medusa. These are Medusa's Crocs. Excellent.
Yeah, Teresita did a fantastic job with these. The trickiest part was getting the the water to line up properly. Like getting that to do what it's doing was a little bit of a feat. Overall, though, the piece turned out really great, and it's just a lot of fun. So now you can think of that Jafar has alligators in his moat. So that's kind of
and one of the just development behind the scenes things, and just maybe you don't want an insight into how we work, but this was one that we had to retrofit. Once we decided that removing the border was an option, we had to go back to several cards at very late stages and make sure that the art lined up perfectly. Because in the past, if you have the border there's a lot of details that don't really need to be executed to perfection. But this, among other cards, once this was made aware that we could do this, we're like, all right, we'll go back and we'll make sure those line up well.
Beautiful. And I love the background as well. We get to see a nice wide shot of the palace after Jafar's. Well, is it though? Like, is this? Because this, yeah, it is. Yeah, you can tell from the shape of the turrets. Yeah, no, that's beautiful. Love that. And this Brutus, from a gameplay perspective, I have to mention I really like the synergy that this has with the Medusas that we've gotten recently. That definitely synergize with these two cards. But yeah, beautiful.
That's great stuff. Have a lot of fun doing them too.
Mm-hmm.
So we have another card reveal. Two more, actually, but the next card reveal, I just asked the team, what was one of your favorite artworks from Reign of Jafar? Just outright, what art do you love and want to show everyone today? So,
let's go.
Also, apologies if there's a lot of noise in my background. There's like a lawnmower or something outside.
It's not too bad.
No, not Powerline. This was one of my favorite cards. It was Nicola Saviore did it, and it's just so good. I mean, you can't. It's just so good.
Mm-hmm.
There were so many cards in this that we collectively love. It was hard to choose which ones to put in this. But Chief Bogo, from the first initial sketches, I was like, oh my god, this is going to be one of my favorites. There's one other, but we're not revealing that today.
Yeah, this is one I art directed, and it was just, like you said, it was like immediately as soon as you saw the sketch, you're like, that's him, that's Bogo, that's amazing. Like, it captures his personality so perfectly.
And we knew where all the overlaps were going to be from like the get-go. Like, okay, sunglasses in hand are going outside of frame. We're going to have the clipboard coming out, like breaking over the ink bar. Like, it's just so good.
How often does that happen where you see a sketch and you're like, bam, that's it, nailed it, like, this is perfect, just execute, and we know exactly how this is going to work?
10 times per set.
That's good.
Say everything.
But this one,
it's tough.
If you remember, this one I think we got on a meeting and we talked about the top line of this one and just like, what is this? Like, what are we showing here with like the ability? And we mulled over this one for quite a while as to what this should be depicting. So by the time I think the thumbnail came in, we were looking for something pretty specific, which is also something very dangerous to do. But Nicola Saviore is a master. I mean, he's brought it to life instantly.
I have to give Nikolai a shout out too. I love that Nikolai has like a prominent role in this set with legendaries, because I will forever associate him with Jafar, because he did the original Striking Illusionist, if I remember correctly. And so like the look of Jafar as an illusionist and this glimmer that we saw, like, he will forever be the one to me who defined that character. So I love him having a prominent role in this set.
Wait till you see his Enchanted.
Enchanted? Where? What? What I missed? Go back. Enchanted Jafar. What?
Oh no.
Nope, you missed it. Sorry.
Enchanted. So this was already revealed yesterday, but I was hoping that you guys could talk a little bit more about the Enchanted style for Reign of Jafar.
So me and Mike worked very closely on developing the Enchanted style, and it went a lot of different places, didn't it, Mike?
Yes, it did. It was we usually create inspiration boards through like Pinterest and other accounts just to kind of like give us an idea of like, okay, what are the kind of cues that we want to go for here? And initially what we were looking at is we wanted to focus on a couple of things. One was Jafar's opulence, right? Like dude's all about gold. He likes gold. His whole set is like marble too. And then of course the sand magic. So we're like, all right, sand magic, this, and then because we're artists and we have that education background, my brain went to Gustav Klimt and the Kiss and like just overall style. And I was like, oh, okay, what can we do with this? Oh, maybe we can do some surrealist elements. And then Mckay and I were like, yeah, let's do that. And just like dove in and started like noodling up some ideas. And Aubrey like got in on the action, was just kicking some butt. And like, all right, fine. Who's the perfect person to do our initial test card for this? And that was an obvious Aubrey is the perfect person to do our test enchanted card because she gets it. She's been in every conversation with Mckay and I about this, and she's also amazing. So let's just let her run with a card. And we picked one. And the one that we picked was one where I was like, I don't know how this is going to turn out. Okay, we'll just put all the trust in Aubrey to make this the coolest card that we can make it. And we actually use this for our pitch presentation with Disney. And you'll see that card coming up in a little bit. But it's super cool.
But before we get there, I wanted to touch on that surrealist element because it wasn't before we were talking purely in like a stylistic format. It was like, okay, what is the style? Bringing in a lot of the gold, a lot of the flattened elements and stuff like that. But I remember the day that we sat down, we were like, okay, but why this style and why in this set? It can't just be because gold is cool and we want it to be cool. And so we kind of had this moment of like, wait, Jafar's creating all these illusions. Like nothing is as it seems in this world. And that can really mess with the heroes. Like, what about the side where our heroes that are on cards are actually like leaning into it and they're like okay with it. They've figured it out. And this is like the upper hand that they get. And this is where we start to see them like almost at home in the world of illusions where they're like, yeah, we can do this now and we can overcome because of our understanding of Jafar's same old tricks. And so this is where that really kind of started to come to life with like the illusions can be a tool, if you will, for our heroes. And so you can see here, I don't know how many people have noticed it, but the tail of Raja turning into rope that Jasmine has in her hand that's kind of looped over her shoulder. We did want each piece to have kind of like this piece of the art that really spoke to surrealism, that there's something here that isn't quite right.
I think the other thing that they're leaning into too was with the hourglass, right? So it was for Jafar's sand magic and being able to peer into the hourglass and getting that kind of glimpse and thought of like, okay, we're seeing this kind of alternate reality, which is where it's like blending in the surrealist kind of landscape, utilizing the sand. But more importantly, when we're doing cards like this, the one thing that we're thinking about the most is what's our depth going to look like with the foil processing? So you get to do a lot or have a lot of fun with all that sand and the swirling magic and, just it's cool stuff. I'm sorry I cut you off, Aubrey. Go for it.
No, you're good. That was forever ago. I don't even. I think we're just talking about the surrealist elements and just how it was kind of an interesting challenge because every card has a completely different story to tell, right? Like, so trying to figure out what that surrealist element is was very specific to each story, and that was kind of a fun, I think, challenge to go through and think about.
Oh, totally.
Which Aubrey should talk a lot more about what's coming up, unless there's questions about this slide, I guess.
I think we could go to the last card reveal.
I mean, I'm happy staring at this Jasmine art. It's so pretty.
Aubrey, take it away. This is yours.
Tell
us all about
it. So this is Bambi. This is the one that we did early on as a test, like Mike and Mckay were talking about. So yeah, we hadn't quite exactly figured out what the style was going to be. But we wanted to play with surrealist elements, so I was trying to play with themes of like this is baby Bambi before he becomes king, but he is sort of fated to become king, right? So I wanted to kind of play with surreal elements that would like tell Bambi's story, um, while also bringing in some of the sandiness and some of the Jafar elements. But like, it was an interesting challenge because I think Bambi's story is the most important for this card, but we also want it to fit into the Reign of Jafar, right? So like, we were trying to design it in a way where you could look at it and just enjoy it for the storytelling of Bambi, and but then also look at it more and realize, oh, there is sand building up. There is something that kind of ties back to the set. So
Yeah, there's a pretty big story in there. If you look at the card, you see those things that the birds are perched on. Those are alluding to Bambi's horns. So you've got
yeah,
the
his
antler,
adult antlers. Yeah.
adult antlers are kind of framing the scene. And then I remember we went back and forth about how big do we make this bird? How, what's the scale?
Yeah, it was tricky figuring out how much to read. I think the antlers aren't obvious from first read, and I like that. I like that there's more to look at and find out as you look at it. But it was also, you see so little of them. It was really an interesting balance to figure out like how obvious we need all the cues to be, how subtle we want them to be. Yeah, it was really fun to work on.
I can't wait to see the
beautiful
foil on this.
It's stunning.
Like just seeing that crown go straight to foil is just going to be.
Oh yeah, I want to see the shininess. That'll be fun.
I want to point out the and R&B has just mentioned it as well in chat, so shout out to him. The little lore symbols everywhere is really cute, really cool.
Yeah, I think one thing we had talked about for elements too that I tried to touch on here is these flat gold elements, because we knew they would look amazing in foil. So we wanted to have these sections that were these flattened out golds, like a little bit more iconographic looking elements, so that they could look amazing once they're foiled.
Yeah, like taking those the leaf shapes and like where you can take and like have just the borders be more foil, and then like have the leaves themselves be a little more flat. Just so much fun you can
stars.
do with these cards. Oh yeah, all the stars too. Like
it was really fun to work on this one. Just really play with those ideas.
Aubrey, I just have to ask, because we went through looking at this card how many times. I didn't really realize that the lore symbols are in clumps of 3. Was that intentional, or was that just like design-wise 3 felt right? Because this card does quest for 3.
Oh man, it does? Okay, yeah, that was not intentional. 3 is just an aesthetically pleasing number, yeah. To be honest.
I had to ask it.
Yep. Art 101, one of the things is the rule of 3 is kind of a thing. So when you've been doing it long enough, it just kind of instinctively comes out in your work.
It's totally intentional.
What's really nice here in particular that you might enjoy hearing as well is I think this card has a lot of potential as well. This is pretty strong, and again, especially after rotation, our games will look a lot different, and this is a pretty interesting ability. So again, anytime you can play with you can always play with all your enchanteds, but when they're seen at the top tables, that's gotta feel nice as well from a competitive standpoint. So yeah, this is beautiful. People are really going to enjoy playing these and spending a lot of money, I dare say, to get a playset or even one.
Yeah, it's a card I'm kind of excited to try playing.
Yeah,
it seems really fun.
Yeah.
Tell you, I have an favorite card. I'm not going to tell you which one, but this might just be it. So
I've had to stay quiet for a moment. I'm sorry, because I actually got emotional when I saw this card. And I'm going to try to talk about it real quick. And this is really cheesy, but I'm going to... when you're a new parent, there are certain things which for some reason like hit you hard in ways that you wouldn't expect in movies and things. And this hit me really hard because, that when you're raising a kid... This is not what you all asked for on the screen, but when you have a young child, like a young daughter who's like whatever, you immediately... every day is a realization that time is so finite, and this moment of innocence that your daughter in this case has is fleeting, and based on your experience that one day all the trials and tribulations that come along with growing up will be there, but in the moment it is pure innocence, it is pure bliss, and that's really captured in the film of Bambi, because when you watch and you've seen it before, what's coming, and that at some point Bambi sees his mom for the last time and doesn't realize it, and then there's growing up that happens very quickly, and This particular moment, especially in like almost like a fetal position, Bambi, is pure innocent, surrounded by the indications and the hints of what he will become in life's hardships, and the pressures and the weight that he'll bear later on, just around him. But in this moment, even though that's encroaching on him, and putting pressure on him, he is enjoying this moment of just being a child. And it's a great piece.
You're gonna make me cry.
Oh, I'm already crying over here.
I'm gonna say, as parents, I can definitely agree with that. That is one of the most life-changing moments that you have, where you don't get it until you have a kid, and then when you do, it's like, oh my God, I was so wrong. Like,
yeah,
and I think the antlers, I think, are what really brought this home for me. And I think when we saw it, Mike, you could probably second this, but when the flower in the back is kind of like a fun motif for like the forest and stuff. And while it is kind of like obviously part of that surrealism, because it doesn't like quite like scale doesn't work out here. The moment the antlers were kind of wrapped around in that like kind of protective and just like homage to what Bambi would grow up to be, and such a beautiful, just wrapping up the film in this moment of heartwarming, like, oh, there's Bambi.
Yep.
Brush it up.
It's too nice.
It is beautiful. Like, again, it's like I can never relate in that way. I don't have children of my own, but I've worked with kids, and like I can everything you just said, Liam, I think is beautiful, genuinely. And it's so awesome to hear these different perspectives as to how this game and everything about it is just touches so many of us in unique ways. Due to that affiliation with Disney and what sort of emotions it brings to the surface. So yeah, you are valid, my friend, and thank you for sharing that with us.
Yeah, it was amazing to hear. I feel like when I'm working on a piece of art, I'm always trying to make a feeling more than anything else. So it's just really incredible to hear that the feeling came across.
It did.
100%.
It did.
So, on the super emotional note,
now that we're all crying,
and I really appreciate you sharing that, Liam. But I think it got us all emotional, but in a good way. But yeah, that's the end of this creative main stage. I really appreciate Mike, Mckay, Aubrey being able to come here and share with us. And then Liam and Baker being able to join us here. I guess I'll start with Liam for just letting people know where they can find you.
Yeah, no, I first, thank you so much for this. This is a treat and a treasure every time I get to interact with anybody who makes or is part of the creation of Lorcana. And always a pleasure hanging out with Baker. But in particular, we love the art of the game. We love that side of it. So the creative team are just heroes to us. And this was a treat and treasure. Thanks, everybody, for watching. You can find Aaron, who's my better half, and I at the Illumiteers on YouTube or any social media network. We'd love to have you come and hang out with us.
And Baker?
Again, echo what Liam just said. Thanks so much for inviting us out to these sort of things. It really is a privilege, and just as full-on Disney, but specifically Lorcana geeks, and the unique stories that you're bringing to the world using this beautiful IP that we all cherish so much, and being able to just reignite life into them and give us all these awesome what-if scenarios is just, for me, incredibly meaningful, and I know a lot of the community feel the same way. And yeah, one day, hopefully, I will. Like, again, I'm just gonna say it one more time. Art book one day, is $1 million idea. That's all I'm saying, because we appreciate and love the art so much. The concept art in particular, I know it's very rare that you share those sort of things. I remember last time we got to see some of Arcasia in the concept art, and that was awesome to see. So that opening image of Jafar for me was was very sentimental. So thank you all so much for your time and your work. But yeah, I'm Lorcan Villain, and you can find me on YouTube at Lorcan Villain, where we will continue to cover not just competitive play, but the lore, the art, and the stories we love.
Thank you all for having us. This was a blast, and always awesome to be able to talk about the things that we all love, which is art and Disney. So
yeah, seriously, y'all are awesome.
Yeah, so that's a wrap for this. Reign of Jafar is available for pre-orders now on Amazon, or check with your local game stores. You can go to DisneyLorcana.com to find your local game store, or DisneyLorcana.com/locator to bring you right to the store locator. But yeah, thanks everyone for joining us in the chat and getting emotional along with us. And
sorry.
we'll have tomorrow is our first weekly Lorecast on twitch.tv/DisneyLorcana. And then Friday we'll be back here on Discord at the same time for a narrative main stage. So you can see all those announcements and schedules here on discord.gg/DisneyLorcana. So be sure to check that out and join us. And excited for next time that we can get more of the creative team in here to do another main stage next time around. Thanks, everyone.
Thank you.
Thank you so much.
Thanks, bye, y'all.